Right. So now, if we talk about critical thinking, as you said, right, you get the gist of it. Now you know this logical connection to be made, or to analyze or make a decision. You need critical thinking. So it is clear that we understand that what does the critical thinking means. But the question is, do we practice it enough? I don't think so. uh, Especially if you see how the education system works, where you're always taught, just do whatever you're told, and you're set for life, and not analyze anything, or don't look at a problem, and try to come up with your own solution or decision making skills. So I think that's where the fault is. And obviously, if you're going to be a problem solver, one of the most important tools you should have to make any sort of decision is critical thinking. I hope that will be clear after we go through the session. You'll see that relation in practical terms as Tabisho does the session with us. So that's one aspect of critical thinking, but critical thinking is obviously not limited to that. It goes way beyond that. If you're trying to do anything in life, and not just problem solving, critical thinking is always a good tool to analyze any decision and make logical or rational decisions. So that's the theory of it as per me. Now, I'll just quickly, won't bore you guys for long, and hand it over to Tabiso. So Tabiso here is one of the most apt person to give you this session on critical thinking, because all he does for living is critical thinking. He, not for living, but for passion also, obviously, because he has been working with MIT D Lab, and going from places to places, solving the problem of actual real life problem of communities. He also runs this organization called These Hand, which does exactly that, working with the communities to solve their problem. And yeah, I don't think we can ask for a better speaker on this. So yeah, over to you, Tabiso, and we can start now. Thank you.
Thank you, Diraj. Wow, man, the pressure. Well, hi everyone. Greetings from Botswana. I don't know if you guys know where Botswana is. Botswana is in the southern African part of Africa. So just right above South Africa, uh, in the middle. So on the west, we have Namibia. Then above us, we have Zimbabwe, Zambia, we have Angola as well. And then below us, we have South Africa. So we're a landlocked country in the Kalahari Desert. And I know in India, we have the Kalahandi district, because I started these hands with a guy actually from the Kalahandi district in Odisha district. His name is Saga Mahapatra. And yeah, as Diraj rightfully mentioned, my name is Tabiso Mashaba, but everybody calls me Black, so feel free to call me Black, not Sir. But yeah, generally I'm in the work of working with communities, underdeveloped communities, communities in refugees, communities in slums, to basically guide them through a process which we developed, which allows them to critically think about their own livelihood challenges, and then explore material around them, explore the skills that they have within themselves, and then come together to co-create solutions which address those challenges. And usually when we say technology development or community development, people think of high-end things. But when you think of low-cost solutions, they can be made from anything which is around you. And some of it could be recycled before you can even put it into practice. So, Diraj, just to get started with everyone, to break the ice, those that can, those that are not shy, we're going to do introductions. Usually, if we were physically meeting, we would be in a circle, and we would call this either morning circle, afternoon circle, or evening circle. And that's where we get to know each other and ice break a little bit. So at this particular time, I'll just do a little morning circle with you guys, and then we'll get to introduction of the design process, which we use and train people on, so that they they use it for critical thinking. And then from there, I'll show you some examples, which I will show you how they work with the design process that we will be sharing with you. And then we will do a design challenge, a fun design challenge, where we will each make a chicken out of a kitchen towel or cloth. Yes, we will get to that part. Anyway, so I'll start with introductions. As mentioned, my name is Thabiso Mashaba, and my nickname is Black. And one interesting thing about myself is that I'm a father of 5, although I'm 34 years old. But God and I cheated because God decided to give me 2 sets of twins. So that's the one interesting thing about it. So who's willing to go and just tell us who they are?
Black.
Yes, sir.
Thabiso Black.
Yes, Thabiso Black.
Black Masaba.
Mashaba, yes.
Thabiso Black Masaba.
Yes, or you can just call me Black.
Yes.
That's easier. So you want to introduce yourself, Prakasha? Tell us one interesting thing about yourself. You can type on chat, don't be shy. Okay, I'll give it a few more minutes and then we'll get into the next segment. Okay, so
Good
usually
evening,
the next, nice, there we go. Yes, sir, how are you?
I'm fine, sir. How are you?
Good, good. What's your name and where are you from? And
I'm
what's
from,
one interesting thing about you?
yes. My name is Saket Kashyap and I study in Trident Academy of Bhubaneswar, Odisha. But I'm basically from Ranchi, Jharkhand. You have heard, maybe so. It's in India. So
Yeah. I will get to come to India one day and you'll show me.
Yes. Definitely, I'll show you.
Nice.
So it's about me. Tell about you some more. I would like to listen more about you. I'm very willing to know about you.
Okay, cool. Then
Thank you, sir.
let's get started then. Thank you so much, Saket. It's really nice to meet you. Okay. So usually the next segment, we would go into what we call problems and solutions in our morning circle. So that's where we will each, check on each other and crowdsource a solution to address that problem and address it. Oh, nice. A guy from Odisha. That's good. I'll tell Saga I met one of their countrymen. All right. Yeah, so I was saying, generally, what we do at Problems and Solutions is come up with problems and solutions that we are each facing in that morning, and then come up with, probable solutions. So if we're in a place together and somebody says, hey, my dormitory doesn't have toilet paper, so whomever is the organizer there then would, make sure that that dormitory has toilet paper, right? So it's a safe space, and we like creating a safe space in our co-creation. So we're going to try and prepare you for working with communities largely, because it's a very challenging thing, especially when you're coming from the classroom setup, because many of the things that it's very difficult to unlearn. But you will get to also realize that the people in the communities have skills which they learned over the many years of just crowdsourcing problems and dealing with problems. So what we will introduce now is something that we call the co-creative design process. We developed it in co-creation with the MIT D-Lab. MIT is the Massachusetts Institute of Technology D-Lab. And basically, it's a school which is focused largely on doing work with communities to empower them such that they empower themselves to live a better life. So basically developing, disseminating, and designing technologies that can actually help with people's livelihoods. So that's what D-Lab does. And so we formed these hands on the backdrop of that for Africa. and largely for Southeast Asia and Latin America. And so you guys are in India, where in fact, Amy Smith, who's the founder of MIT D-Lab, actually grew up. And she also grew up in Botswana. So I guess Botswana and India kind of inspired her to set up MIT D-Lab, because first she then did Peace Corps, and MIT D-Lab uses the Peace Corps model and then this design process to basically facilitate the work that they do. Right? So we're going to take you through the process. So Dheeraj, let's take them through the process. All right, so I bet on your screens there, you can see a nice little picture, right? So it has the design process on it. So that's our famous Bible or Quran, or, you name it, Guru Granth Sahib. It's basically what we use for our critical thinking processes. So, and we use it and we call it the co-creative design process. So as you can see there, it starts with just the problem itself. So if you are in a community staying together, you have various challenges that you are faced with, either at the household level, community level, or even at the district level, right? And you are always constantly complaining about them, right? So, and usually we state them such that they are vague. So I'll give an example. If we are in Odisha, for example, and then we are sitting together with some people in the community, and then we ask them, what is your biggest challenge? And then the person says, the problem with Odisha is that there is no implements that we can use for farming, right? So saying that is a very broad statement. So the next part of the design process, we call it gathering information. So as part of this process, we will teach you a process of observing, asking, and trying things out when you are within the community context, such that you are able to better understand what that real pain that the people are actually faced with is, right? Because if you say you are lacking farm implements, it's broad. But if you go and critically sit with the person to analyze in depth, then what you will realize is that the person may tell you, oh no, the actual challenge is that we actually don't have digging forks, right? So when you think of now ideas in the next stage of the process, you're going to be thinking about various ideas which are trying to come up with a digging fork, right? But using locally available material in that area. And then you will keep experimenting with that available material until you find the right one as you are thinking of these ideas. And then what you normally do is you will have several ideas. And what you do is that when you're coming up with ideas, you don't shun any idea, right? So if a guy says, oh no, I was thinking maybe we could use elephants and then they can just till the land as they step on it. That's not a rubbish idea, because there's a logic behind how heavy the footprint of an elephant is as it keeps going up and down. So you can put that and group it and then build on that idea for making things that will be able to go up and down in the same heavy weight as the footprint of an elephant, right? So instead of rubbishing ideas, you put them together and then group them into particular themes, and then you build up on them. And then at the end of that, you will have a list of themes of ideas, which you'll then vote against the baseline, right? So the baseline in this case would be there's nothing of an implement that helps people to dig. And then somebody will say, maybe we'll use metal and then we'll weld it together and make a digging fork, right? And then somebody will say, no, we'll use wood and then we'll use less metal to make a digging fork because welding is expensive. Just like that. So you are still thinking about it. And then you have a list of these ideas that you will rank out of 10, right? And then you will vote for each one of them. And then the one that ranks the highest based on the advantages and the targets that you have set up for yourself on the type of technology that you want. So for example, your first target could be you want it to be as cheap as possible. The second target, it should be you wanted to be able to dig as much land as possible, something like that, right? And then based on those targets, as you vote, it will show which one has the strengths, but it will also show which one has the weaknesses, even if it's strong than the other ones. Then you can borrow the strengths from the other one which has lost, right, as you are developing. Then after choosing this best idea, you work out its details. Okay, I'm going to need 6-meter wood. I'm going to need a saw to cut it. I'm going to need a drilling machine to drill it. All those things, you state them down. It should measure this much, all those things, right? And then after you know all those things, you can buy them. And then you can build your solution. And then after building your solution, because you are the maker, you test it out first by yourself to see if it is functioning the way you had envisioned it to function. And because you are not designing it for yourself, you are designing it for the community, with the community, you then call the community to come and test it. And as they test it, they will give you feedback on where to improve it. So then the cycle closes off because you will now have new problems which you can use to keep working on to improve your technology, which is what we call iteration. And I will tell you this, design never stops. So once you have come up with the first solution, it can keep just changing and improving up until we have improved version. And I'll give an example before I get into the examples that I will show you how the design process was used to bring something to life. Just take the tin opener, where it started. The tin opener started because people wanted to open cans, right? So that was the main pain. And then as they thought, they eventually chose to make it just from stainless steel, where you just prick it on the thing and then you keep moving it up until it opens. Over time, it has evolved such that now we have an electric one where you just fit it and then you just press. So electric can evolve even into solar and all other forms of energy, right? So if people say, no, we're off grid, then you can say you can use the solar one. So that's how technology evolves, and that's how design helps to critically analyze all these things and then come up with how people can bring their innate skills and bring their knowledgeable skills from school to come together to solve the problem. I will pause here and see if there are questions before I get into examples. Any questions? You can type or you can unmute. Questions? Okay. How will we know which idea is the best? So we will know which idea is the best based on the targets that we set for ourselves and how we vote. So I'm going to give that example again, but this time I'll use a simple example like maize, right? So traditionally maize, after it's dry and we've harvested it, we would like to remove it off its cobs so that we can cook it, right? Sometimes, or to pound it so that we can make some porridge. And usually the process of shelling it, we usually use sticks or, whatever to pound it such that it falls off the cob. And this usually gives us ergonomic challenges, right? Like back pains or our hands are sore after doing this for a very long time. So in Haiti, they were faced with the same challenge. And what they did,
No.
okay, is that a question? Hello? Seems like there's a question. Okay, I'll continue with the clarification of how you get to choose the best idea, and then I'll answer the other questions. So And then the people of Haiti were faced with the same challenge. So they set themselves as they were developing the technology. So they thought of various ideas, what to step on it, how to pound it, all those things. So they eventually, as they were gathering information, heard about a technology in China, which was 3D printed, and it was a maize sheller. It's just a handheld device, which you just put your maize in between and you wiggle it from left to right and it shells your maize. So because they didn't have 3D printers in that village, they thought, what can we use to make something similar, but with the material that we have around us? So they decided to use recycled corrugated metal iron sheet. And then they made a small little jig, which helped to make the grooves that go on the inside. And then they made this technology. So, but as they were waiting, so the first technology that they had there in voting was a stick. And then the second one was the maize sheller itself. So they were comparing the stick and the maize sheller, and then they were also comparing it with using just your hands, right? And the target was that it should be something that should be effective, that will shell all the maize from the cob. It should be something that will be cheap to make because we don't have 3D printers. It should be something that will be able to sell so that we can make extra income from the maize that will be selling as well. And then it should be something that is able to be easily taught to another person to make, because we want to also transfer the knowledge, right? So when you rank that on hands, obviously some of the things were positive, but do hands shell the maize completely? No, they don't, because eventually it gives you blisters. So your learning curve reduces, right? When you take the stick, eventually it makes your back pain, gives you back pains, so it slows you down. And then when you take the metal sheet thing that they made, it was more effective and it was more durable and easy to use and easy to make and the like, right? So they ended up choosing that best option based on the votes that they tallied up. So somebody also asked, what do you do when there are challenges during the voting of the best idea? So the Pew chart that we will introduce you when we are getting deeper into the process during the course of the 4 weeks will allow you to be able to put your idea and then let the voting and the targets that the team has set do the talking. Because we know that it is very difficult for a person to let go of their idea once they have thought of it, right? Because everybody believes the idea is the superior one, always. And it's natural. Don't ever feel bad if that is how you think about things. But what needs to happen is that you need to be able to know when to let go of the idea so that it can grow with others. So in the sense of teamwork, all components of what everybody has thought of can actually make the best idea, right? So this is what will allow you to be able to do that, the Pew chart. Let me check if we have other questions. Aha. Do we scale up once we test the idea and find that it will be working? What if the idea works on a small scale and not on a large scale? And then how can design thinking mindset together with IT technology help to cater for social needs? So this last one I will answer in the next segment where I'll be showing the real life examples. And then with regards to scaling up, so what happens is that the design process is continuous. So even after the first prototype that you make, which people test and they can start using in the market, the feedback that you got from them, you use it to keep making improvements on it, right? And then taking it back to them to test it. So there will be a time when the feedback that they give you doesn't really say, you need to improve much. And it doesn't really talk to functionality or economics or the challenge that, or it's not causing more problems to the people. Then in that case, you are ready to say you are ready to scale it up. So make many of those units with confidence for manufacturability or right? But you have to constantly be going through the process. Even as you are scaling, sometimes, as you mentioned, it's easy to scale with within one village, maybe using a different model where you are selling or renting out the technology. But then when you go now into the bigger part of the country, there now people are not really interested in the technology because it's a rural technology. So maybe then you have to sell a different something. So you are maybe selling a service for them to farm for them, for those that have farmlands or something like that, if it is a farming technology. So you scale based on the feedback that the community gives you, and you basically are constantly co-creating with the community so that they guide whatever it is that you are developing, right? Because at the end of the day, they are the users. So that answers that. If there's a problem, there are so many solutions. How will you get to know there's the best solution? So in the same context, you use the Pew chart. So as I mentioned, for the maize sheller, there were several ideas. For sanitation, there could be several ideas. So whatever ideas you are having, just put them on the Pew chart and then vote for them as a team. And you vote for them being very honest, right? If you feel like this thing is not really that effective because it's your idea, don't just defend it because it's your idea. Look at the merits and everything else. Okay? So the continuity of the process is the solution because we keep getting feedback. That's the best way I've ever had anyone put it. Yeah, I want to believe. So we usually say there's two impacts in this particular trainings that we do, right? It's the process itself, how it impacts people, and they become confident in using the design process to critically think and address their own challenges. And then there's the solution that actually comes out of it, which addresses the immediate needs of the people. So as they keep giving us this feedback, we improve on how we are addressing this challenge, and we are coming up with a better solution to even address it better, right? So to a point where at some point the problem won't exist because the solution would have been perfect. So just to go on so that I can show how this design process and an IT mindset can be used. So I got another message just quickly. If the problem is solved, will the design process cycle continue? So the design process, as you can see with the arrows there, is continuous. So it has no stop. And we never say the problem is really solved per se. As I mentioned, you keep improving it until it satisfies all the people, right? So at first prototype, maybe you will have satisfied, let's say 55% of that community. So they are eager to use it. They want to benefit from it. And some of them have given you feedback on how to improve it. So then you improve on that. And then it grows maybe by another 25%. So now you have impacted 75% of the community and they're using it and they're loving your technology and the solution, right? And then they give you feedback, you keep improving on that. At some point, you will reach about 98% of the community. And it's just the same with cell phones. If we remember that back in the days, if we look how the cell phone era evolved to a point where now it's, I would say everybody needs a phone more than anything else than before, even Wi-Fi, even, you know, all these things. So they've evolved like this and it never really stops, right? So even with Wi-Fi, we're evolving how we are benefiting from it, how we can use it, all these things. So the design process never stops because problems never stop. And then also critical thinking is something that should never stop, right? So whenever you stop, that's when you start telling yourself that you know it all and you have addressed it all. But if you live with the mindset that you are constantly learning and you are developing to address your challenges as you learn, then you are critically analyzing and you get reflective solutions which address your real challenges. Okay, so if there are no more questions, now I'll give examples, a real life example. So Iraj, if you don't mind, let's go to the next page. Are we at the next page? The next page, which is the example from eyes. All right. So I decided to start with an example from India, which was done by one of our people within the International Development Innovation Network, which we formed with MIT D-Lab. So basically, what you are seeing there on your screens is called a clean birth kit in a purse. And it was developed by a lady from Chennai called Zubaida Bai, and it's called AYZH, AYZH. And what it basically was that the biggest pain that Zubaida experienced in Chennai as she was growing up was that many births were done in the household, but were not done with the right, equipment and right care. And it led to a lot of infant mortality and at most times as well, maternal mortality. So in order to address this pain, she had to think about what is the best way to go about developing something that will be an intervention to reduce this high infant mortality and high maternal mortality, which is caused by the uncleanliness that happens because of household births. And so in co-creating the solution with the communities, they decided to package a simple birth kit, which is then taught to the maternity ladies that are community health workers that actually help with the birthing, and how to use them, as opposed on depending on the government clinics and hospitals, because large births are actually done at the households. And so she got the women to also be the ones who make that particular pink bag. They use fiber, sisal fiber, I think, and then they weave it into that nice little bag and they package it. And then she distributes it. She started in India, now she's distributing all over the world. She has support from the Clinton Foundation, Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, UN itself, and she wins many grants and all those. But she started all this when she was a student, just like you, right? So she was doing her MBA at Colorado State University, the Global Social and Sustainable Enterprises MBA. And because they were in the same consortium as MIT D-Lab, she was able to meet with the D-Lab and then was able to get introduced to this design process. And she took it and went to apply it at home. And then she came up with the technology and then went back to the MBA programming and was able to develop a business model around that, which is a social impact business model. And now she's running it globally and it's very successful. And it's addressing real-time challenges. So this is how the design process was used. So with the first one, as you can see, maybe when they made the first technologies, they didn't really make these cool ones that you are seeing on your screen right now, because these are high-tech medical appliances. But they made sure that for gloves, they had something. They had an alcoholic sanitizer made from, a process using chemicals, natural chemicals there in India, which were mint and stuff like that. But over time, they improved on it because they were getting feedback. But they made sure that everything that they packed and was packaged was always high quality and medically regulated and checked before it was used on the mothers and the kids. So this is something where you use your design thinking and then to help you develop a technology which can then address people's livelihood challenges. Diraj, if you move to the next picture, so we come to Botswana, and then we'll take questions and answers again. All right. So what you are seeing there on the picture is a technology which we call an interlocking curved blocks press. So it's a press which is used to make blocks that are used to build houses or randaval houses, but doesn't use a lot of water. It doesn't use a lot of cement. And what was the problem that led to this technology being developed by the community of Diga, which is in the Kalahari Desert of Botswana, was that there was rainfall somehow in a desert, which led to floods. And then these floods led to one of the houses of the community members falling on them, and they actually passed on. And this was because largely their houses are built with just twigs, and then they take mud, which is mixed with cow dung, and then they patch it just to cover it up. So this was not a strong house. So it was easy to dilapidate, and then water basically dilapidated it. And then that's how it led to the person's death. So in order to address this challenge, as they were gathering information, the community of Diga realized that traditionally the San community, which is the Bushman people of Botswana, don't actually build houses because they were migrants. So because now they have evolved into this modern day life, in order to tap into something which is easily cheap to make, they started using those twigs and what I was talking about. But as they gathered information to see what options they have, they got to understand that they can actually make randavel houses, which are traditional Tswana houses. So these round houses that are built from mud, and then you thatch them with grass, right? So, but then as they gathered the problem even more, they realized that it is very difficult to build a randavel using square blocks uh, as opposed to using the curved ones. And also, if it's going to be very expensive for us to build a randavel using such a thing, such blocks plus also cement, because we don't really have the income. We're at the base of the pyramid. So they decided to come up with a press which will allow them to make these curved blocks. But then they decided to make them interlocking so that they would have to use less cement. And then the way in which the press is formed is such that you put your mixed mortar and cement in that funnel over there, and then you drag it backwards, and then it fills up, and then that lever down there, you pull it down, and then it will press after closing, and then you release it, and then you press again to release the brick, and then you put it to the side. And then after they dry, you just line them up into a circle, and as they keep interlocking like that up until you're done with your house. And it is a very strong house. It's very good for winter times because during the day it absorbs sun, and then at night your house is warm, and the reverse is also true. So it's a technology designed by the community using low cost material, but also improving on existing presses that exist out there to come up with a unique press to address the immediate challenge. So this one is the first prototype that they made. The iteration from this one was such that people said the lever was too low and it gives them a back problem when they keep bending to have to press it. So they created a high-rise stand for it. There was a complaint also that sometimes when you move the brick from the stand down to where it dries, it falls apart. So they made a tray which you can then move with it and place your brick on the side. And then they started doing measurements of how much cement it actually takes. And now what they are doing is they're constructing houses for other community members, and they use their own financial system within that community. So they can, the Diga Innovation Center can receive 2 goats from you to build you a simple house, or 4 goats to build you a certain house, stuff like that. And then they will sell these goats and get money from that, and then they pay the staff that worked on it, making those bricks. So these are the things that where we say people critically think, and then people use the design process. They come up with a solution. They keep improving on the solution. And the solution could be a technology, but it can also have other channels. So the service around it, you know, the different mechanisms or different business models you can sell the technology or lease the technology with and stuff like that. And this all comes from co-creation and using this design process with the community. So you're not designing for them. You're not saying I'm the messiah because I'm studying mechanical engineering at school. Nope. You're saying, hey guys, you know your real challenges. What can we do to address them? And then they say, we are thinking of making this. And then you think about it from a mechanical engineering standpoint. Oh, what if you use the rubber instead of wood? You know, because you basically know material science. But they would use wood because they would be trying to really critically solve it fast, right? So because now you are co-creating, each one of you will bring your strengths to the table. Each one of you will bring your ideas to the table. And then there will be harmony of these strengths and ideas to lead to a solution which is effective. And so in this 4 weeks, you'll be going through this journey. It's unfortunate because of the lockdown that you won't be actually able to go out that much. But because some of you come from the context of some of the challenges that we will eventually address, it will be easy because you can empathize. This morning, somebody asked whether it is easy to empathize with the COVID-19. I like that question. Yes, we are able to empathize all the time because wearing one's shoes starts with wearing your own shoes. So if you know your own roots and you can set yourself in those roots from the view and the lens of those people, either socially, culturally, economically, or technologically, then you are able to best contribute from their point of view and their heart, as opposed to saying, oh no, you know, those people are lazy, you know. So privilege leads to bias. And so in many of the work that we do, we try to kill bias and also try to learn. We try to unlearn all the things that we know so that we are able to learn more. So in the next process of this process or session that we are at, I want us to do an icebreaker and just get you guys ready to critically think. But first, I'll take your questions and then we'll go into a design challenge where each one of you is going to make a chicken out of a kitchen towel or a cloth that you will be able to find. And you're going to do that within 10 minutes. And I'm giving you these constraints and this material and this challenge to help you start critically thinking, but also to show you that design work is fun work, and that as you will be going into now working in the projects and addressing real-time challenges from the communities, you need to have fun, but also need to know when to step back and let the community members also guide you, right? But I'll stop here and thank you so much for your attention. I hope this was a good introduction to what we will be doing in the 4 weeks. And I'll take your questions now before we can do the design challenge. Any questions in particular about these two examples I've just shared, or one that you want to bring to the table? Oh, nice. You have an incident. That's great, man. That's a beautiful one. I like that. So this is Sahil. Sahil says he had an incident where people in a village died because they couldn't reach a hospital on time. I guess this is during the COVID situation now. And this is because of lack of good transportation or good roads or just response time from the ambulance or something. Now, the obvious solution would have been improving transport. But that didn't even work, right? Because the actual problem was something like lack of first aid, right? So in using design process, he helped them come up with the cheap and affordable ventilators that they could use them before any medical help arrives. And this worked, and this saved many lives. So that's exactly what design process allows you to do, right? So the vague challenge there, at first, if we hadn't critically analyzed it using the process, we would have said, yeah, we need to buy more ambulances, right? But no matter how many ambulances you have, if you don't have the thing that will suppress a person to be able to breathe, by the time the ambulance gets there, or even when the ambulance is there and there's no ventilator, that the person may still lose their lives, right? So using the design process allows us to put everything bare on the table and then really assess what are, in what we call systemic thinking, what are the reinforcing loops and what are the balancing loops? Where are they balancing to? Where are they reinforcing to? Are they reinforcing negatively or positively such that we follow them? Is this balance going to lead into a negative reinforcement later? So we are basically constantly always looking at the root cause of a problem, right? You don't just look at the surface. Because if you just look at the surface, the first thing that comes up to mind on the surface is what you will engage with, which usually is not the solution. So this is a good way to think about how the bottom-up approach is key and important to a top-down approach, right? So design with or design by the communities is more important than designing for the communities, because we have seen that how that has disturbed development over the many, many years, right? So a government will think, oh, on the surface, oh, we're entering the fourth industrial revolution, so I should just buy all villages some computers and go and set them there. But then the people have no ICT literacy, the people have never seen a computer, and then you find just a white elephant just there, right? And I've recently been approached by the Bob and Sarah Rothschild's Foundation here in Botswana. They go around building libraries for communities. So they were worried that, and then they put these Microsoft computers in there, and software and internet and everything. But the community is not using them. So they asked me, what could be the reason? I'm like, did you ask the community if they wanted books to read, or you just put them there? Because maybe they wanted tech tools to make things for themselves. So now we are going to do a training with them to explain and find out what really makes sense for the people. Because maybe they just want to do traditional dance and song, and that's what you need to support, right? So the design process allows us to design on a journey with the user, with us constantly, so that there's no chance of, oh, I did something that disturbed a person's life, or I did something that disrupted life for people. Yeah, and then we have here, I noticed by working on an autonomous car in IIT BHU that cutting costs often means reducing functionality or reducing reliability. How to strike the right balance between cost and functionality. That's a very, very good one. Because largely what you will do when you are designing for communities is you'll be thinking about how to keep the cost as low as possible. I think that will be the target on all your projects, right? Because the people that you are designing with and they're designing for themselves won't afford if you put a lot of components, which make it more expensive. So what you try to strike a balance is when you are working out the details in the design process, so if you had to buy a bearing, instead of buying a bearing, see if you can make a bearing. And it's very easy to make a bearing. People think it's very difficult. So if you need a bearing for a wheelie to move something, instead of buying it, what can you do? That's the next thing that will be able to help you, right? Because when you buy the bearing, it means now that you are incurring an extra cost, which you are going to have to put into the price of that particular solution to the people that you'll be selling it to. And we know that these people can't really afford high prices, right? So the balance lies when you're choosing the best idea, and then when you are working out the details. That's where you now start saying, okay, in order not to really kill functionality by trying to come up with a cheap thing, what can we do to still maintain the same functionality in its strength, but using low cost and available material? That's the main thing that you will have to constantly be thinking as you're going in this journey, right? So for example, if it's an ICT solution and you want to make the first prototype, so instead of buying Microsoft software as you start, you can use a free software so that you can show us the prototype, and then people can engage with the interface and test it. And then once it's tested and good to go, and people are ready to use it, and maybe you have a client that's ready to pay, then you can buy that software and then now bring it to real life so that you can now take advantage of the market, right? So many of the things that we will be doing as we are thinking of ideas before we build will involve a lot of thinking about what does it mean to the community member, right? Based on that, if we are designing it for a high-end market, we can even make it as pricey as possible and as quality as possible. But what we will realize is that the quality of what we will produce will probably not be like top-notch because it will be based on material available, but the functionality will still be the same. So that's what we need to fight for, the functionality, so it serves to address the problem. And then the quality lies now in the iteration as it keeps iterating over time, right? So as I mentioned, with the tin opener, I bet the first one that was just a stainless steel metal was very cheap, right? But the electric one now is more expensive. But because now there's an array of evolution of the same thing, all the markets within that community are taken care of. So those that can afford the electric one can buy it. Those that cannot still afford the electric one but can afford the metal one can still get it, right? But so we start first by designing for those at the base, and then they keep iterating and growing it, and then it can be appealing to everyone as it keeps growing. I don't know if that answered you. Let's see if we have any other questions. Yes, so I was asked the question here, should we always check all the aspects, material cost, availability before designing? That is basically what you will always be constantly doing. Because sometimes we say, oh, maybe we should build, a spaceship, but then at just the first start, you don't even have the skills even amongst us to think of a spaceship, right? So we will, as we go through the process, within several stages, we will give you tools and material that you will use to be able to stakeholder map. So either in a group, check which skills that you have, come up with a team chart of how you will like to work. As you are going into the community, observing, asking, and trying, you check out what is available in that community. Is there a hardware store where you can easily get things, or there's no hardware store? So then you don't consider using anything that can be bought from a hardware store, right? And then the next one is like in similar, women's security has become so problematic, and the solution that women should stand for themselves is not a solution. But here we're thinking about what we could do. Yes, I'll give an example about this one. So in Zambia, I worked in a community where menstruation was a taboo. And I bet it's a taboo there in India and everywhere else in the world, right? So men, because they were the breadwinners of the family, it's a patriarchal society. They were the ones providing the money. But the girls would experience their first menstruation and then report to their mother. And then their mother would report to the father. And the father, because they didn't want to have that conversation, would just give up the money, right? And usually some girls could not expressed themselves to their mother or their father and they were scared. So in order to address this taboo within the community, it ended up with the solution where the girls and the women in the community were making reusable pads using dengue and cotton. And then the men were in charge and in the forefront of selling these pads to the rest of the community because they liked business, right? So it's the same case of GBV, or where we feel like in largely patriarchal societies, women are put on the side and they're just made to be spectators of their own lives. We need to address the challenge from where it stems from. If the problem is patriarchy, then we need to stem with those that are holding on this belief of patriarchy to see how they can maybe evolve it to be inclusive of everybody else and still not take away from the ego it gives them or something like that. So these are some of the things that when you talk about the design process, it doesn't really just stick to technology. It can stick to societal service design. And I see the next question here is, I'm working on a product-based idea in which one viable solution is to implement a very recent research paper and scale it into manufacturing, which seems very costly and feasible, but other solutions do not seem promising. What can be done? So when you have a case like that, where you are borrowing an idea somewhere and then you want to replicate it for a certain place at manufacturability, but you see that that's going to be expensive, then you can spend a little time co-creating based on that actual technology, right? So now co-creating it with the community you want to transfer it to, so that they can maybe either adapt it to a point where it will still be the same technology or product doing the same thing, but now you are using locally available material, which then maybe brings your cost a little bit lower. I don't know. I hope that answered that. Yes, that was helpful. Thank you. Okay, so I think I have answered all the questions that came through and I have responded to the comments. But you can keep them coming for the next 5 minutes and then we'll start the design challenge. Thank you for the feedback. I'm glad what we're doing here is insightful and helpful. All right, any last more questions before I introduce the design challenge? In any case, what will happen is after you get into your groups, your mentors will deep dive into each part of the process with you for your ideas, and you'll be given tools that you will be able to use at each and every step and stage so that you are able to develop the idea that you are thinking to come and bring it to life and up until we showcase. Okay, so if you are still thinking now or you are shy, you can ask when it's a smaller group with your mentor later on within the week. In that case, I am going to transition to the design challenge. So I want to convince you, because I already know that each and every one of you is a designer and is a maker. It's just that when we spend time thinking logically, we want to see things come out of the other side in a certain way or looking a certain way. But when we use critical thinking and creative thinking, the idea is to get to the solution as fast as possible. But also when we use critical thinking and design thinking, we will realize that life has many, many constraints. And instead of being stopped by those constraints to address our challenges, we work around those constraints or within those constraints so that we can come up with our solutions, right? So Many of you maybe laughed or are shocked when I said we are going to make a chicken out of a kitchen towel. So a kitchen towel, I mean a towel like this one. Can everybody access this within the next 5 minutes and then come back to station? If you have one on you, just say I. You can just mute and say I, so that I can start with it. Okay.
I.
Yes, we can use the handkerchief, it's fine. So something squarish or rectangulish like this one. It's not too big, not too. All right, nice. Good. Yeah, so if we all have that, what we're going to do now, I'm not going to guide you through any stages. I'm just going to give you the instructions, and then I'm going to give you the time, and then I'm going to start timing. And then at the end of the time, you are going to show us your chicken made out of your cloth. So we will each ask each and every one of you to switch on your video, because when you are displaying them, we would like to take a group shot, which we can also share with you guys to keep, to show how creative you are, right? All right, I see many eyes coming up. All right. So if you're all ready, the 10 minutes starts now in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let's go. You have 10 minutes to make a chicken out of a cloth. I know most will probably cheat and Google, but the 10 minutes won't allow. But keep doing, keep trying. 8 minutes left. 8 minutes left. Six minutes left. Okay, 4 minutes left. Two minutes left. All right, I see a picture. I see a video loading there. Oh wow, look at that. Nice. We have the first display, but 2 minutes. All right, second display, third display. I love your chickens, guys. That's looking nice. All right, so in 1 minute, we are all going to switch on our cameras and then show our chicken. Okay? Wow, look at that one. So clearly none of you, if you were to imagine some chicken during this lockdown, you would definitely make a nice looking chicken and just cook it. Nice. That's a cute one. Okay, let me show mine too. There's my chicken. Not sure if it's clear for everyone. All right, so let's all show our chicken and we can switch on our audio and say cheese or chicken. Or maybe we could even go pop, 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 pop. And Tiraj, maybe you can take the screenshot.
Yeah.
Chicken! Pop, 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 chicken!
Winner, chicken dinner.
Dinner chicken, yes. All right, so
I love how when we talk about chicken, everybody imagined a slaughtered chicken and not a live one.
that's interesting. That's a good one. In fact, that was my next session to say, if you were to improve on the design of your chicken, what would you change or what would you do?
Right.
Anushka, Narula, you want to say something?
Actually, what I found was that mine was not so aligned, like from the backwards. So maybe I could improve that portion.
And what would you think you would need to improve that? Time, extra time, or a Google
I guess
video or something?
yeah, like with the help of a video or something, maybe I could improve. Like I just read an article and I just made something. So I could make.
But can I ask?
could make
But
it.
can I ask you a question?
Mhm.
Are you proud of yourself of having made a chicken, even though it's not perfect?
Yes, I am proud because I didn't know. Like I did it for the first time, and the moment you said
Uh-huh.
initially, I got really confused. And how can I make a chicken from a dal? And so I just opened Google and I just came across an article, and I was like, oh god, it's so easy. And
Uh-huh.
then when what happened is I found it easy. It looked easy, but when I started making it, I would tell you that the picture I showed on the screen, that was
Uh-huh.
after 3 attempts. So, and I even
Nice.
feel that it can be improved to even more extent.
Exactly. So
So that's
you
the
were
thing.
experimenting. So at first you thought of, okay, how am I gonna make this, right? And then you thought of
Right.
many ideas, and then you experimented. So 3 times up until time ran out, and you showed us what you showed us.
Yeah.
So you
Yes,
use the design
exactly.
process. Awesome.
Mm.
Yeah, we have a question on chat. It's saying, okay, yeah, it's okay. We understand about your webcam. Oh, I didn't think we could make this type of chicken. I imagined a live one. Yeah, maybe somebody made a design of a live chicken using a cloth. Do you want to show that? And then also,
I kind of made a drawing on the cloth. I couldn't, I made a live chicken actually.
I hope that was a
you were
wastecloth.
thinking of? Yeah.
So we lost you for a while there. You'll have to
Yeah, let me
repeat if
go
you're
back.
saying something. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, so I was saying, oh my God, the chat is so funny. So he's saying he imagined a live one, maybe because he's a vegetarian. True. And he didn't think it would be a grilled one. But as I said, so it came down to become a grilled one, either maybe because of constraints. So maybe if you had like glue and other things, you would have tried to envision making a head of a chicken and, you know, putting the 3 little things that go on its head and the ears and the nose and the beak, right? But you didn't go that route because you don't have those materials. So because the only material you had, it limited you to only giving this type of a chicken. I made one-legged chicken when I started. Till you said stop, I made 3 to 4 different models, and my design got better and better. That's amazing. That's the design process. Unless there are any other comments, at this point, really, I made an egg, chicken inside it. That's another thought, right? Beautiful. So design is that fun. So even when we are thinking about the critical challenges that we're faced with in our day-to-day lives, the way we we think about them, your chicken ran away. That's a nice one. So we should be as fun like this, because dealing with these challenges and in this fun manner allows for you to be able to empathize with ease and not sympathize. So you won't be there thinking, these people. No, you are actually like, oh, okay. So they go through it like this. So when you are designing, you can even try and run on that idea of, oh, people irrigate water like this. So we should make something that will irrigate the water like this, as opposed to change their culture or the way in which they do things normally. You can just improve with them what they already have, right? So we call it, usually that's called human-centered design or value-based economics. We call it co-creative design process. Okay. So on that note, thank you so much from me here in Botswana. And those that their chicken ran away, we will find them and we will have them for next dinner. Those that brought out all their chickens, look at all the chicken that we have now. We can have a big dinner. And thank you so much for the comments, the questions, and just being super cool and awesome. Namaste. Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Taviso. Thanks a lot. What a brilliant session it was. I'm amazed.
Awesome.
So because just in this beautiful way of your storytelling about how you work with different communities, you have encapsulated, the basics of design thinking. What I feel you have built, I think you have set a right precedence and a right foundation for the now our learners to start working, because you told them about why it is important to empathize, when you're building solution for others, and why you should keep always the user in the center whenever you're designing, and you should try to co-create like the design with them. And I think that is where the term human-centered designing comes from. So it was just beautiful, just lovely. I think we've covered everything. Anyway, that was my takeaway. Guys, here we will now like to hear from you, our participant, our learners. You can type in the chat as well, but we'll prefer if you come on the camera and try to speak. Anyone? Come on, guys! This Corona lockdown, we don't get to see many people anyway. Let's at least see each other virtually wherever possible. Let's see some faces. Yeah. What do you feel about the session? What was your takeaway? Yeah, there's tons of thing in the chat.
So my webcam is not working, but it was a great session, as it was very interacting, and every single question was answered, and many questions were there which didn't came to my mind but were asked by many, so I got the insight ki, okay, this could be done in that.
Definitely. Thanks, Deepika. Anyone else? So another thing I liked about the session is when people talk about nowadays, when they talk about building solutions or like tackling any problem, they always look at what Tabiso said as ICT or technology, basically the information technology. So when they think of building a solution, they'll always try to come up with an app, web app, or some sort of device, electronic device. But this session also shows us that you can be very frugal in your innovations and actually use the readily available and cheaply available material around you to build an actual viable solution that people will use it. I love that part, definitely. So Shoham says, like, the teaching experience was one of the kind. There was no doubt left. Thank you. Okay, cool. It's always inspiring to share any platform with like-minded. The session definitely motivated me. Amazing. Smriti says, I can't hear you. Is my audio all right, guys? Or others are having issue as well? Okay, right. So I guess, Smruti, there's some internet issues from your end. Not to worry, not to worry. We have all the entire session recorded. We'll be sending you the link as well before tonight, and you can go through the sessions on your own timing and pace, and check out any part if you missed something. So Debrata Chatterjee says we should always think in every possible angle to come up with a solution. It need not be technology driven one. Exactly, exactly. That was my point. Thanks, Debrata. Cool. That is all. Anybody wants to speak up or put anything in chat? Any takeaways? Anything else? All right. I think that's all from everyone then. Taviso, you still there?
Yeah, I'm here. I was on mute. Wow, guys, thank you so much. The feedback is overwhelming. I equally enjoyed myself. You know, at some point when I was cracking jokes, I wondered whether you guys were laughing or not, but I just laughed by myself, just to laugh on your behalf. So now it makes sense how Trevor Noah feels when he's, doing the Trevor Noah daily social distancing show, because he has to laugh by himself with no audience. But I enjoyed this because you guys chipped in and you were very active and asked a lot of nice questions, which led us into each and every step of the process. And I look forward to working with those that will be mentored by me in this coming weeks. And yeah, let's keep it fun and enjoy your time that side in India. I haven't been to India as yet, but you can trust that I'm coming. And I'm looking forward to meeting any one of you anywhere and do stuff with you. I love people, so it'll be easy. Anyway, thank you so much for the session, and see you guys again for the next session soon. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Abhishek. Thanks. Tavisha, you can drop off. We'd like to talk to the participants for 2 more minutes. Meanwhile, thanks a ton. Thank you, and we'll see you again. Thank you. All right, guys. Lovely that all you liked the session. I hope it gave you some more ways to think about on how we look at problems, and the multifaceted ways in the way the solutions are possible as of now. So anyway, so for tomorrow, what we will do, okay, before that today, we will send you an email with some details about, first there'll be the briefing about whatever happened, and there'll be also recordings of the 2 sessions we had today. So there'll be that, and also we will communicate this to you over email also, but we wanted to tell you here also that going forward, what all of you have to do is, so the Zoom account, when you use to join this call, you'll have to log into that Zoom account first. Okay. So from tomorrow, or maybe day after, what we will do is that we will turn on the Zoom, this meeting room only for people who are signed up on the Zoom platform. Okay. So, and probably we will send you in the same email today, uh, so that you can submit us your Zoom email IDs, and please try to sign up using whatever email IDs you had filled in the form. That is very important. So why we are asking for it is because it becomes easier for us to see who is joining and who is not, first of all. And second thing is that when we will do our mentoring sessions, when will be using breakout rooms within this one meeting call, it becomes much easier for us to assign to the rooms if you are registered on the Zoom. Okay, so please do that today. We will send out the same details over email also. We'll send out the recordings if somebody missed the session for some reason, or if somebody missed some part of the session, you can again go through it. Okay. Cool. And
Excuse me,
tomorrow,
sir.
yes, yeah, Christine.
Sir, I had a doubt. I have
Yes,
already signed up for Zoom, but from another email than
yeah.
the one I had signed up for Cisco Incubator. Would that be a problem?
That is all right. Should be fine. So what we will do is that we'll send over a Google form. In that you can again enter what Zoom ID you are using. Okay, the Zoom email ID that you have used to sign up. You can enter that in that form. Okay. And going
All right,
forward,
thank you.
we'll be tracking you using that email ID. No worries.
All right, thank you.
Guys, any doubt till here? Anybody has any questions? Anything they want to say? No? Okay. So yeah, so moving forward, you know the overall agenda for the week, but anyway, for tomorrow, we will start with a briefing call at 11, plus it'll continue to session. I hope I'm right, Nishant.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, so I just wanted to check if the timings are right. So yeah, anyway, you'll get those details as well for tomorrow, the joining details and all and the entire agenda for the day tomorrow over email. But yeah, so tomorrow basically now we had a good foundation on how you should empathize and uh, do why critical thinking is needed whenever you're doing problem solving. Now from tomorrow onwards, we will actually get into the design thinking process. Today you can call it sort of maybe a slow start, but as we go on, the intensity will increase obviously. So from tomorrow onwards, we will start working on the design thinking aspects, on what are the different focus area you can look at. So today I think it was a good session on when you are trying to solve some problem for any marginalized communities or people. That way, Tabiso was able to give very good examples on that. But that is the problem solving is not only limited to that, because you can solve multiple any sorts of problem you see around you. It can affect you or not directly. That is all right. So we'll get into that tomorrow on how to choose a focus area, a broad focus area, and then you think of a problem that you want to solve in that, and the entire week will be analyzing that problem, if that problem exists or not. How do you go from a broad selection to a narrower selection of exact problem statement. So there'll be that. Please join in tomorrow again, 11 a.m. And yeah, that is all from me. Any questions if you have, or Nishant, if you want to add something here.
Now, bro, it's total complete.
Yes. Okay, guys, so please do join in tomorrow. We'll have a session. We'll start thinking about our problems. And then once we have some bit of understanding of our problem that we want to solve, we will move on to team formation. That will be on Wednesday. And we'll keep sharing more details with you as we go along. And after the teams are formed, obviously, you'll have mentoring sessions as well. All right. Any questions here? Anybody? Any doubt, any clarification you want? All right. Cool. Thanks for joining, everyone. Hope you had fun. All right. Bye bye. See you tomorrow.